il me semble que aujourd'hui les architectes sont fortement sollicités du point de vue de leurs compétences formelles, de leurs compétences esthétiques, de leurs compétences en tant que designer, en tant que praticien de la forme essentiellement. Et il me semble qu'un des enjeux aujourd'hui des architectes contemporains, et en particulier des jeunes architectes, c'est de réussir à résister à cette injonction à produire de la forme, de la belle forme, et à servir des dynamiques dont ils sont en grande partie exclus, dont ils sont exclus des véritables décisions, au fond. Et donc dans les dossiers que j'ai pu consulter, il me semble que ces jeunes architectes développent différentes stratégies assez intéressantes pour, disons, contourner cette question de la forme, sans perdre leur statut d'architecte et leur rapport au projet, leur rapport à la conception architecturale, mais en s'intéressant au processus, en s'intéressant à la médiation sociale, en s'intéressant à la participation des habitants, à la formalisation des choses, en s'intéressant à des dimensions écologiques ou de performance, disons, énergétique ou environnementale de leurs bâtiments, finalement mettre une grande partie de leur énergie d'architectes, de concepteurs, ailleurs que simplement dans la plastique froide de leurs édifices, quoi.
The pleasure of doing things is a main element in our practice. So for me, it's a fantastic title, and that's also what attracts us in doing things, in being at location, is having a new direction, working with context, and probably taking out of the context a specific element, but continuing in that sense. Architecture is giving possibilities and not solving problems. That's a very interesting point for us, I think. Every new context, every new complexity is not an ending point and not a problem you have to avoid, but it's the next step to go further on. I think in our office that's the general attitude towards things, and that can happen in the formulation of a brief of a competition or a client, or this can happen at the moment you are at the location to construct.
Many times architects are or consider themselves opposite to society, and we believe that we are a part of a huge network that is called society, and that the everyday life little details are also architectonic possibilities, spaces, opportunities, etc. So from that point of view, if you understand that the architectonic material or the architectonic discipline is not something that is separate from society, but it's something that belongs to society, on the one hand, it's easier to work, and because you don't have these kind of conflicts like I'm not understood by society or things like that, but it's just that you have to understand why and find there in those controversies the opportunities. Because cities have to be very plural, the plurality is the best or the first, let's say, statement of an ecological perspective, because every ecosystem is very plural in order to survive. So we defend that the practice should be understood from this point of view, like a very plural practice, and that involves the design of what usually is called architecture, which we believe we have to work there, we have to build and construct and to think about all those processes, but not only, also to try to take part in the debates, take part in the researches, also understand that fictions, social fictions, for example, also belong to architecture, to their users, and they inhabit architecture from that point of view, so we have also to intervene with those materials. So also the architectonic materials are very plural.
you know that the thinking, the architectural thinking, and the doing and the practice makes sense together, right? I'm not only interested in someone who's showing his practice, because you can see a lot of projects, a lot of solutions for kind of tasks that were being given to do either an extension or a house or I don't know what, but for me, when it becomes interesting is when those works or those projects start to relate, and there's a kind of bigger story behind it, a kind of stronger will to research something, or to get a kind of knowledge in, or this kind of thing. So that's what I'm also so mainly interested in. And the other thing that I became aware of is that you can say there is a kind of Belgium architecture. And that's so interesting, because everything is so international. Everyone is, internet is being aware of what is happening in Switzerland, Japan, and in the Netherlands at the same time. And then still you can see there's a kind of culture in the architecture which is different, also already different from the Netherlands, which are, we're so nearby and already so different. Maybe that's the fascinating part about Europe, but it's also, it's quite also present in architecture. And that's interesting to see, yeah.
Para mí, como ser arquitecto es tener unos conocimientos técnicos, pero no solo eso, sino hay que tener conocimientos políticos, y antes que arquitecto eres persona, y antes que persona eres pues humano, un ciudadano o lo que sea. Entonces, para mí, la arquitectura que hacemos recetas urbanas, que somos muchos, y ahora trabajamos en arquitecturas colectivas, que somos más todavía, es definir quién es el cabrón. Que puede ser un político, un ciudadano, un empresario, quien sea. Armarte de conocimiento técnico, leyes, materiales, participación ciudadana, mediación social, y proponer. Nosotros nunca hacemos concursos, nunca competiciones, porque la arquitectura que hacemos es la que está en la calle. Los clientes son los ciudadanos. No hace falta que un político me diga, vamos a hacer un edificio aquí ahora. No. Día a día ocurren situaciones en las cuales un arquitecto puede trabajar y no esperar que un promotor o un político te diga, ahora os vais a hacer una competición y el que haga el edificio más de moda lo va a construir. Pero la decisión de construir en ese momento, en ese tiempo histórico, con ese dinero y ese uso, es de un político o de un promotor, y el arquitecto es una mierda. Con lo cual, nuestro trabajo de receta urbana es investigar qué ocurre y meternos ahí a trabajar. Simplemente.
But I guess what makes architecture is not just how we make decisions about space, because that's sitting in the world of planning, if you want to put things in disciplines, but it's how the decisions that we collectively make about space manifest themselves in form. And as a result, form is an incredibly political and cultural thing that is owned by all of us. And therefore, even though the architect may be the person who designs that form and with all the other consultants and builders puts that into the world, it's an expression of a set of decisions that we are taking together. And I don't mean that in an idealistic way, because a lot of people don't get to influence those decisions. And I suppose for us then, the architectural project, and for me in particular, as someone who designs processes within our practice rather than buildings, is how do you create a type of practice where you are conscious of how decisions are being made, you're allowing multiple voices into that decision making, and the form becomes representative of that decision making process.